Hi, I'm Rob. I make it better. That's what I do. So I had this dad. He plays with his kid. In a couple of years ago, something like that. He told me he wanted to hit longer because his kid was kicking his ass, right? And so he started doing what I teach. Change his grip, start doing drills, stuff like that. And he told me today that this year he's increased his swing speed, so he's 40 yards longer. So he's like 260 with a good drive now. And a month or two ago, he told me his kid had started paying attention to his dad catching him at distance, and he was curious about it. So his dad, showed him the grip and stuff like that, and his kid changed his grip. And I asked, what's the difference with the kid? Well, he's straighter. He hits more fairways now. And I said, was that a good thing to teach him if you want to kick his ass? And the dad goes, well, maybe not, but the kid is happy. That's the most important thing. So the dad now is at 260 plus with a good drive, which is nice because you have to understand that means that he's 90% longer than every amateur taught by PGA. Yes, you understand a 20-year-old with PGA is at 240 yards on average. That's a 20-year-old. You're 30 or 40 years old, the distance goes down to 230, 220, 210, 220, 200, 180, depending on age. And I have a 68-year-old that told me this spring he was able to drive and carry, par fours at 320 yards. A couple of times for the first time in his life. 68 years old. He's almost 70. He's retired. He's a senior. And he's longer than over 90% of every amateur taught by PGA coaches. And he never done being able to do this before. He said, this is fucking magic. Because he doesn't understand how it works. Because I never explained it. I can't explain it, so, But it's much more fun to people. Oh, I'm hitting fucking mile now, and I have no fucking idea how it fucking works because it doesn't conform to what you know about the golf swing. Everything you know about the golf swing is wrong about it. Ben Hogan was 100% wrong about what he was doing in the golf swing. He didn't know. When he explained it, he got it fucking wrong, right? He was actually doing something 100% opposite what he was saying he was doing. And if you don't know what you're doing and you explain it wrong, you write a book about it. And he said before he died that he was really happy with the book he wrote, the 5 lessons. And he said, this is the best book in golf. No, it's just pure bullshit. So every Ben Hogan lover out there in the world and about his golf swing, not his ass, know that. He didn't know what he was talking about. Anyway, I'm happy for this guy. He's 40 years longer this summer. He's kicking ass. He can play with his kid. He shoots low 70s. He's having a blast. And here's the funny thing about it. His swing will never change now. This is what most people will miss in what I teach. Once you get to that point, your swing will just work. Down below, you have a link to my other YouTube channel, which is about how to overcome dyslexia. It always works. You can't fail. I had this kid. She was like 14, and I met her mom and her, and I said, "Okay, is your kid dyslexic?" And her mom, well, yeah, well, I have some papers, and she showed me the papers, 6 papers with diagnosis of them. Went through them, and I took the papers and threw them away. I looked at the kid. This shit does means absolutely nothing. So I ran my checklist with her. And I was like, all right, and I want you to do this. And I did something. It took 2 minutes. Boom. She was not dyslexic anymore. Not kidding. Now, if you tell this or show someone who is a professor in dyslexia, who works at a university with tenure and they're expert on all this stuff, he or she will not, or they, them, I don't know, or sports fans, something like that, will not understand what I just said because they can't do it. You can't just fix someone in 2 minutes with dyslexia because they tell you this, it's for life. No, it's not. My method teaches you how other people read. Across every country in the world, people read the same way. Dyslexia, however, can have a multitude of different variations. Currently, there's like 6 theories, what's wrong with you if you're dyslexic. In my case, it's only two. One, you have everything, but it's not organized properly in your head. My method teaches you to draw the checklist, and it will be organized. Boom, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes, and you won't be dyslexic anymore. I did the live demonstration with a kid back in over 20 years ago. It took 45 minutes. He went from being dyslexic to not dyslexic anymore. And his mother, was absolutely mind blown by it. Anyway, the other case is when your kid needs to work on this with feedback, and you have to build the memory for them and how to spell words and check that they are spelled correctly, and you run the checklist and you give them proper feedback. Because if you don't give them proper feedback, you can't explain things to someone who can't do shit, right? Think about it. Back in 2008 was this book called The Talent Code and how to, build talent. The Daniel Cole who wrote the book doesn't understand it. I do. And you have to think about this. If you're going to learn something you've never done before, you don't have a memory of it. So your brain is going to default back to what you already know, right? So if I ask you a question like, who invented the radio technology? If you listen to the radio, listen to the radio, Bible time, cause it's tea, doo-doo. And the name that pops up for you are Nikola Tesla, right? Because he invented radio technology over 120 years ago. The other guy that people teach you in schools usually was an Italian and a thief and a criminal. And that's what people teach you in school. They don't teach you to do, fact checking and think for yourself. Whew. So what happens when you're going to learn something and you've never done it before? Don't have a memory of it. So you have to, learn, engage into activities, test it, experiment, until your brain starts forming a memory and be able to relate to what's going on. And at some point, you will understand, how it works, and you go, "Oh, Eureka! Oh, I get it now." But what happens if you have a golf swing and you look down, you see the ball, your brain gonna go swing, and then you're gonna swing the old swing. You may say, I don't want to do the old swing. I want to do the new swing. I'm change my grip. I do the drills, and this is why when you do the drills, you start without the club in your hand. You check on video that you're doing correctly. You put the club in your hand. You do the same thing. You don't hit the golf balls at first. I know people say, I want to hit the golf ball. No, your brain is gonna override you every time. People want to stop smoking. Can they do it? No. Oh, they try, but then they have a cigarette in their hands. I don't know where it came from. People, it must be uncut. No, it's not. It's contextual, right? Everything you do is contextual. In the other case, with dyslexic or just that, you have to build the function for them with feedback and repeat it a lot, because repetition means that you build a memory. If you didn't know that, it's not unconscious. My method that you can look down there and tell your friends who are dyslexic or have dyslexic kid, if they follow the instruction and apply it to the kid, they won't be dyslexic. It will always work. This is what people miss all the time. They don't understand what I'm doing. My approach will always work because using the feedback system to teach, to build new memories, or in this case, memory function in how words are supposed to look like, how they're supposed to be retrieved and spelled and read. Genius, this guy. That's me, by the way. So, when someone, tells me they added 40 yards this summer, they have been working on this stuff, start doing it. And then people tell me, you can't increase swing speed with it, that much. I was told that, on Golf Rex, they were telling me, you can't do that, 50 meters, it's impossible. I'm like, I have a 53-year-old now, and 3 years ago, he went from 240 yards, that's 220 meters, that he had tried that for 2 years, he tried with PGA, right? It didn't work. Yeah, it just sucked. And then he would start doing my stuff and follow it, the instruction. He didn't do that at first. He went from 220 meters to 320 meters, which is 240 yards to 350 yards. And then people tell me, you can't do that when you're 50 years old. This guy did it, and he's kicking ass on the golf course nowadays. He actually had to relearn the game. He said, I can't hit driver most of the time. I had to learn to hit spoon, and then I had to learn to hit longer irons, and maybe it's a hybrid or something like that. And then, I just have wedges left. You have to, you have to relearn the game. And he hits longer than two pros do. It's just how it is, I guess. And people keep telling me that's not possible. I'm like, what do you mean? Here's the funny thing about this dad, right? So he's 40 years longer now this summer. He's 260 with a good drive. And it's going to be a little bit longer, because he optimizes over time, right? But here's the thing that most people will miss and never understand about what I teach. It will never change for him. He will only get better. It will always work. He will never need lessons anymore. And he's going to watch this. He's going to go, I'm never going to need a golf lesson ever again in my whole life, the rest of my life playing golf. No, it will always work. It can't fail. That's what I do. You get to the point where you swing, it just works, just works, just works. Then people tell me, everybody who knows PGA teachings or such, they know that's not possible. Tupros will tell you that's not possible. And they are saying the same thing Professor in dyslexia would tell me and told me. I had a docent in, one of those PhDs, whatever, who works on the university, told me what I'm doing with dyslexics are impossible, not plausible. You can't do that. And I'm like, of course I do. I did it, and I keep doing it. Actually, I had one of my students, which I taught this stuff to. He had a 15-year-old girl. She was diagnosed dyslexic from Danderyds Hospital here in Sweden, and he applied what I was teaching after overcome dyslexia for her. Then a few months later, she went back to the Danderyds Hospital to did another dyslexia test. And the testing lady looked at her, why are you here? You're not dyslexic. And she was like, yes, I am. According to you, when I was there a few months ago, I am. But I went to this guy, and he helped me overcome it. That lady never asked my student what he did, because people doesn't want to learn this stuff. They want to keep your kid being dyslexic so they can keep their jobs. I guess that's the only plausible explanation I have. Well, this is a guy who does things that works, but since no one else can do it, it must be magic and whatever. Right? What I do always works. So this dad who wanted to catch his kid with distance in playing golf, he now can just play like that for the rest of his life, and it's just going to get better also. People will miss that with my stuff. They think, well, okay, you launch a new golf swing, then you're going to struggle. No, he will never struggle again. He will never need golf lessons again. That's my stuff here on YouTube. This is why people, thinking, well, I don't want to change my grip. You have to. Well, I don't want to do this without a ball. You have to. Because in the talent code book, if you read that, you will find that stuff in there called deep practice. Because it boils down to a comparison mode. Most people don't know how comparison mode because that's called thinking. It's built into my technology because that's how your brain works. Is that when you're going to learn something, but you already have a bad habit in your way, you look at the ball, your brain goes swing. How are you going to change now? Because as soon as you look down at the ball, your brain wants to find the old swing. If you want to stop smoking, you're going to have a cigarette in your hand and you don't know why. Where did that come from? And so what happens is that if you're going to learn something you haven't done before, your brain doesn't have a memory for it. You have to build that by repetition. And you can't repeat it without looking down at the golf ball because then you're going to repeat the old swing. Very simple, very straightforward. Anyway, I'm happy with this guy. The other guy, 68-year-old who hits 260 plus, he was able to carry 320-yard par fours for the first time in his life at age 60. He's a senior, right? Retired and all that stuff. He's almost 17 years old, and he hits longer than you do with modern PGA, and you're 20 years old or 30 years old or 45, whatever. Your swing teachers, the swing gurus, everything you know about the golf swing, including Ben Hogan was 100% wrong what he was doing in the golf swing. The book 5 lessons is fucking shit. And he died thinking he knew what he was talking about. He never knew. He was wrong, 100%. This is what you defend in PGA. This is what you defend with swing coaches. This is what you defend when you go to them, pay them a lot of money. It will never work. After 120 years, it never works. It doesn't work for two pros. He has complained of whine about the swing. It kind of breaks down. They can't play. They can't hit the shot. And they don't know why. I know why. I can explain it to them. So if you're a 2 pro and you're watching this, understand I am someone who knows all this shit. If you want to learn that as a 2 pro, I will just send you to Hans if you can figure out how to reach me. And you go play with him and ask him questions and watch him play. And you go, what the fuck, man? And you can learn to do the same thing. And then you can go from, I don't know, whatever level you are at. If you're 120 or 200 ranked in the world, you can go to top 5, top 10, top 2, best in the world. But if you just go to, let's say, top 10 or top 20, you make, I don't know, $50 million more a year, something like that. That's what it means. That's the difference. You go from struggling with golf to kicking everybody's ass on tour because you will not struggle with your swing anymore because you will know why things happen and how it works. And when you get to the point where it just works, you never need lessons anymore. You don't need a swing coach. That's what I teach. And it's built on the talent code, except that Daniel Cole, when he wrote the book, he didn't understand it. I don't think he does still, because once you understand that when you study something, and you're going to learn something you've never done before, or if you're going to, try to change what you have in your golf swing, you actually have to build new memories, and that's contextual, and that's proper feedback you have to pay attention to. And they can't teach you that in PGA. None of them can. Pete Cumming can't, and Caney can't, Ledbetter can't, Sean Foley can't, Butch Harmon can't, Tom Harmons, blah, blah, blah. They can't. None of them can, because they don't know. You may believe they must know because they're famous. It never works like that. That's not how knowledge and competence works. Anyway, I wanted to make a little bit shorter. I'm happy for this dad playing with his kid, and that's what it's all about. And he never needs lessons anymore. Isn't that great? I think that's awesome. Fucking legendary, awesome to me. That makes sense to me, doesn't it?